bringing up to the starting line of a race and then say, you are free to compete with all the others.
It's pathetic. It's not a question of, there's no you who has the control to be completely fair or completely unfair. Culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which black kids grew up in America today.
So they had...
There's no gangster rap.
I like how it started off there. There's no gangster rap. It's not being black, it's a way of life. Unfortunately, the way of life is being celebrated not only in rap music, but among the intelligentsia, but among the intelligentsia. I've never said that word a day in my life. My gracious, I did not know that Thomas Sowell was going to be testing my spelling. I mean, testing to see if I know how to read. Testing my reading is a way of life that leads to a lot of very big problems for most people. Yes, he's absolutely correct. I'm still stuck up on a lot of things that I've learned coming up, man. So
I mean, the average of black kid today, I think, is probably better off, certainly materially, than, say, Ben Carson was when he was growing up.
Ben Carson, the famous
black
surgeon at Johns Hopkins.
Right, right.
Who is immensely accomplished in every way.
Yes.
Right.
I would say that certainly the black kids who are growing up today have a higher material standard of living than I had. The difference was that the schools were good when I came along. They were especially good in New York at that time, hard as that is to believe. But the kids who grew up in that same place where I lived, they will not get that same education. Now that can be blamed on somebody, but it has very little to do with what happened 100 or 200 years ago. And it's true in other countries. I mean, in Nigeria, for example, there's a tribe, the Igbos, who are living in one of the least fertile parts of Nigeria, who were in fact enslaved in centuries past by other tribes and so on. When the British moved in and set up schools, the Igbos went for the schools. By the time Nigeria became independent, the Igbos had climbed above the other groups that had been ahead of them to begin with. But there are all kinds of cross currents of factors. The particular culture, or the particular geography, you run through the whole list of them.
You cite, in Intellectuals and Race, you cite an observation by the intelligence expert, IQ scientist, James Flynn, that just stopped me cold. Mm. After the Second World War, you've got large numbers of American troops remaining in Germany. For that matter, there's still several tens of thousands there today. And both black and white American soldiers had children with German women. Mm. And Flynn discovered that those children growing up in Germany showed no IQ differences at all. Mm. The black kids and the white kids, the same. Quoting Intellectuals and Race, Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of black soldiers in Germany, and now you're quoting Professor Flynn, grew up in a nation with no black subculture, close quote. Which means what? Which means they experienced exactly the same expectations? Is this
No, the expectations are external. The culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which black kids grew up in America today.
So they had...
There's no gangster rap that was pervasively available in Germany.
So here's what I'm getting. There is something about black subculture in America today that holds African Americans themselves back?
Yes. In fact, I went into this in a previous book on which about black rednecks and white liberals, because that same subculture.
Let's talk about two of your books here.
Hey, shout out to you guys for sending me that book. I really appreciate it. Thomas Sowell this dude is a treasure, man. And I'm extremely appreciative of the channel for introducing me to them, because I wouldn't know anything about him if it weren't for y'all. So yeah, thanks for that.
Go ahead.
Because that very same subject.
I think I'm well versed with black culture. I've been living that all my damn life, right? All of the ways we respond and act to certain things, and the way our bodies move, and what ticks us off, and what things you should know, and you know what I mean? There's ways you should act and not act, those type of things, man. The stuff that we enjoy, things we don't feel like we should have to do in order to achieve a certain thing, believing that we are constantly oppressed by just listening to our leaders and our music, by wondering why we're approached in a certain manner by police. When our music say that we do nothing but the worst of the worst all the time, it helps profile, like we're profiling ourselves in a negative light, but then wondering why nothing but darkness comes our way sometimes. So it's just like what he's saying. Certain cultures, certain black people around the world didn't have gangster rap. But that right there was a trap itself. That's what I'm just now learning anyway. Now, if y'all got some other information on gangster rap, please feel free to send it my way. But from at this point, I'm learning that gangster rap is also a trap.
Culture held whites in the South back as well. That in the time, this mental testing in the First World War turned up, among other things, the fact that whites from various 4 or 5 southern states scored lower on the mental test than blacks from 4 or 5 northern states. And so it really was a question of the subculture that was there, which was a handicap to both.
And so whose job is it to say, wrong subculture, folks, you're harming yourselves?
Well, I would think in an ideal world that intellectuals might take on that task, but the world that we live in, I've noticed, is not ideal.
All right.
The intellectuals tried to take on that task, especially in that culture, in black culture, but unfortunately, the intellectuals are not fun. The music is all about not being restricted in life with anything, not with the way we talk, walk, how we sex, how we drink, how we get money. Nothing is to be questioned. Everything is out there. And the intellectuals, they live by a standard, although they still believe that I have to be a part of saving this culture by operating in this way and giving high regard to those people that came before me. Whether or not those intellectuals that's still appreciated and respected in those neighborhoods have been on the side of the left or the right, it doesn't matter. But those people don't operate and function. They're not fans of the actual the music that's leading the culture in the direction it's being led right now. So since they aren't fans of it, they come off as not understanding and judgmental rather than conversational with someone, having a conversation with someone who actually understand it and can speak that language, but can also show you what's ahead of you if you continue down this path. It's not enough people teaching in that way, because most of the people like myself, and I should be more one of the people who are out there more talking. I'm talking about people like myself, actually, who still listen to that type of music, and instead of turning it down and understanding what it's doing negatively to the community, reach out and go talk to with this same message that I have right now. So there's not a whole bunch of people who give into that because they sound like ops. They sound like, people who aren't on a level. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
What is to be done? Take a look at President Lyndon Johnson speaking at Howard University in 1965.
Oh, yes.
But freedom is not enough. You do not wipe away the scars of centuries by saying now, you are free to go where you want and do as you desire and choose the leaders you please. You do not take a person who for years has been hobbled by chains and liberate him, bringing up to the starting line of a race, and then say, you are free to compete with all the others, and still justly believe that you have been completely fair.
It's pathetic. It's not a question of, there's no you who has the control to be completely fair or completely unfair. I mean, the circumstances are, so someone once criticized the mental tests on grounds that the tests were unfair. And I think it was David Reisman who said, the tests are not unfair. Life is unfair, and the tests are measuring the results.
Yes. I'm not going to do too much talking about this, but I was wondering where he was going in his speech at Howard University, but it seemed like he was adding to the oppression and the victimhood by saying, yeah, you can still do nice things. I don't know why you're going to stand in front of a whole bunch of scholars who are clearly trying to do a little bit more than their neighbor in their communities so they can be ahead, but you're telling them that it's still not going to be fair. Why is that? Because you want them to work 4 times as hard, 2 times as hard? If that's your trick, just tell them, look, life is rough. And in order to get to your next level, you gotta bust your ass, no matter who you are. But that no matter who you are part is that missing piece. That's the missing piece right there. Unfortunately, he wasn't talking about the no matter who you are. He was simply saying, being that you are black, this is what you have to face. Yeah, you're doing great things right now. You're about to get you a degree. You know what I mean? You're going to have that degree with your name on it and everything. But even if we put you in a position to make you equal with those people, the white people, racism or white supremacy, and the people who are above you, so to speak, you still wouldn't fare well. It still won't be fair. That's not encouraging. That's not inspiring. That does not motivate me to want to do better. That tells me to go back into my shell and just depend on you to save me, or depend on you to make it right, depend on the government to equal out the playing field for me. And I don't really believe in that at all. That's just not how I think.
But who has control of life? Who has control of the past? Who has control of the culture that people have in the present, which they've inherited from the past?
So Lyndon Johnson, in fact, although good liberal that he was, at least in regard, Lyndon Johnson had a complicated career and changed positions on issues many times. But good liberal though he was at that moment, he was in fact engaging in a breathtaking arrogance.
Yes.
On 2 counts. One, that white people were the ones who were responsible for where black people stood in the race, that it was up to whites entirely. That blacks, as he described, I put
devastating.
the black people are passive; they're acted upon.
That's right. That's right.
And then the second act of arrogance is the supposition that somehow the federal government could fix it.
Yes.
I told y'all, we want the government to fix it, baby. Fix everything, level the playing field. Do that for us, since we already know that we can't get ahead. We need you, government. We need you, Mr. Government Man.
It is staggering. But if you wanted to be charitable, you could say, well, he said this in 1965. But if you say, all right, why are people now repeating it in 2013 when we've had nearly half a century of experience to the contrary? And if you look within the black community, those blacks who had escaped what I call the black redneck culture, they've moved on. So, but it's the culture the different parts of the black community had. They were different.
What's up, Charlie?
Daniel Patrick Moynihan,
April?
in his famous 1965 report entitled "The Negro Family: The Case for National Action," close quote. Longish quotation, but it gets to something, I believe. Moynihan, the fundamental problem is that of family structure. The Negro family in the urban ghettos is crumbling. A middle class has managed to save itself, but for vast numbers of the unskilled and poorly educated, the fabric of conventional social relationships has all but disintegrated. So long as this situation persists, the cycle of poverty and disadvantage will continue to repeat itself, close quote. When Moynihan wrote those words, the illegitimacy rate among African Americans was 25%. Today, the illegitimacy rate among white Americans is 36%. Among Hispanics, more than 50%. And among African Americans, more than 70%.
Yes.
Holy crap. That is nuts, man. That's because we become what we train ourselves to do. That's just how it is, man. That's the law of polarity? You know what I mean? There's 2 sides, 2 completely different sides to everything. And the one that we decide to focus on and build up and make better, then that's going to guide our lives in that direction, unfortunately. So we've been making ourselves better criminals, better whoremongers, better thieves. Better everything in the darkness. We've been training ourselves to be better at it. Better at the worst things. So obviously the worst things are going to get worse. The numbers are going to move exponentially in that direction. And it's ass backwards. And we're going to continue to, like, until the federal government stop rewarding people for failure. Until anyone stop rewarding people for failure, then failure will continue. Like, why should I do more when I know that people who do less get more? They get bigger tax returns. when they're out of work or something happens, they get the same size stimulus as other people who have a job. Or you gotta make less than a certain amount. It's like, and you like, but they make less and they live in those nasty neighborhoods and it's more dangerous. Get out my damn face with that. How about that? Because we become very used to our environment. No matter where you are in life, we become extremely used to it. As a matter of fact, we thrive in our environments to the point that we don't even want to live in it. We don't want to leave those environments anymore. We can't just assume that a lot of people in those neighborhoods live there only because that's all they can afford. That is completely opposite of the truth, because you go in them neighborhoods and you'll see that they too have nice cars, 2 cars per household, some of them. And you go inside their house, their apartments, it's laid out. What they wearing on their backs, they are used to their environments. They're cool with being at that where they are in life. They're fine with it. This is our thing. Like, we're not going to be ashamed of this, nor should you be ashamed of where you are in life. I don't give a damn if you living in a trailer park or you living in a, roach coach, or you living in a hood. I don't care where you are. Ain't nothing wrong with being appreciative and grateful of your blessings. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But when there's a certain mentality that keep you broke, busted, and disgusted, and you do nothing but turn up each time, and not fixing your issue or trying to make it better, then yeah, you're part of the problem. It's like some people just lean into their destruction, or, drive right into it, speed into it. So that's the issue right there. Right now, people are having way too much fun. Like, when these youngins go to jail for free cars, stealing cars, and shooting people and robbing people, nobody wants to go to jail, obviously. They'd much rather be outside committing crimes than to be in jail. But, although they run and they get caught, it's all a game to them. Because when they go to jail, they have fun. I just now interviewed a young man on the channel that Naya and I have called Blackwall. Make sure y'all check it out. And also, it's for confessions, anonymous confessions. I would like to hear some of yours. So make sure y'all reach out to us. Go to Blackwall, BLAQ, space WALL, and go to any of the videos or inside the descriptions, and you'll see a survey. Fill out the survey, and I'll reach out to you. But anyway, we just now spoke to a young man, very kind young man, very smart. He's a young soldier, and he got arrested for 8 years, gun charge, and he ended up only having to serve 2 of those 8 years. Well, he told us all about it, and at the end of him telling us a whole bunch of stories that I'm like, that's crazy. I would never want to be there. He said, man, but it was kind of fun though. That's what he said, but it was kind of fun though. And I said, man, please don't say that, because you're training yourself to believe that. Like, subconsciously, if you're thinking that, well, I'd much rather be free out here, but jail is kind of fun. The likelihood of you committing another crime and ending up where you just now said is fun is more likely, because subconsciously you're ready, you're prepared, you've already experienced it, you walked out unscathed, and plus you can look back at it and say it was kind of fun. So a lot of youngins think that way, and it makes matters worse and worse and worse. More youngins get locked up, more young ladies are just baby mamas left behind with crazy children. Like, not crazy children, but a lot of children. It's unfortunate, man. Okay.
Aside from throwing up your hands in despair, what is to be done?
The first thing to be done is to understand that this was a result of policies begun in the 1960s. This is not a legacy of what happened 100 years before the 1960s.
breakdown of the black family is not a legacy of slavery.
No, if you the classic study of this goes all the way back to the era of slavery, and they find that most black kids, even under slavery, had lived with two parents, and that was true all the way up until the 1960s. And so, if you really want to find out what's changed, it has changed since the 1960s. And the fact that whites now have a higher rate of illegitimacy than blacks had when Moynihan wrote suggests that this is something that spreads out. But if you look at something else, if you look at those blacks, look at black husband-wife families, the poverty rate among such families has been in single digits every year since 1994.
Jeez.
And so if you look at the external causes, why the husband and wife families and the welfare single mom families all are facing the same society and objective things, but the results are radically different because the cultures and values are different.
So you would roll back welfare. I guess that's the principal policy. So what would Tom Sowell do? One, you'd eliminate welfare, you'd reform welfare. What would you do?
Roll it back.
All right. And what about affirmative action?
Eliminate it.
Just gone.
Yeah.
Colorblind
Yeah.
policy completely. All right. What prospect for that do you see?
None.
No
At
black,
present.
no black leader of any standing. I'm talking about a political leader as opposed to an intellectual such
Right.
as yourself. You've got, there's you, there's Walter Williams. Do you get the sense that there's a growing generation, a rising generation of African American intellectuals who say, enough of this, I'm with Tom Sowell?
Well, I don't know if they'll go that far. There's no point.
That would be
Nah, they're not going to go that far to say I'm with Tom Sowell, but people are getting tired of it. I will say that. Adults are getting tired of it. They are, because it's like, and it's for selfish reasons and it's for selfless reasons. I mean, they want to see the community as a whole start to do better, but we also have our children to worry about and our children's children to worry about, and we don't want them living in this mess. So at some point, it's like, come on, guys, we got to do something. But I will say this, just to keep it a buck, it all starts from home. And when I mean it all starts from home, I mean everyone that's watching this right now, it all starts from you and myself. It starts from us, our own homes, because we got to have the proper training to know what it takes to teach someone else how to do a bit of course correction, so to speak. So that just simply means something like what Jordan B. Peterson was saying when I very first started checking out with Jordan B. Peterson. He was just saying, make up your own bed, make up your bed, and then start from you, and then you span out that way, right? Like a lot of us want to have something. We got something in mind that we want to have. That's those of us who are still ambitious and not just relaxed and complacent with life. If you are that way, then that's your business. You know what I mean? But those of us that still want to have a certain level, certain degree, certain life, certain way of traveling, certain amount in the bank account, all right? In order to have that, you have to do enough to achieve that, whatever that have is, all right? But even before then, you got to be the person that's capable of doing that thing to have that thing, all right? If we're not that person to get this country back in order, then we need to become that person. We've all been through something. We can all tell our stories based off of what we've gone through, and not speak to people simply so they can listen to us and we not listen to them. We need to have objective conversations with people who think opposite of us, and not stay so much in our own little echo chamber. Shout out to Charlie and Angel for mentioning that earlier. But sometimes we like to only be around people who agree with us at all costs, and that don't help anything. But if there's a community out there that you want to help, or that you feel need some advice or attention or something like that, you must first be that person to be able to provide that to them, because you do bring something to the table, and you don't have to be black in order to reach out to the black community and help in some way. As they said, illegitimate pregnancies happen in white communities of 70%. So it's not only in black culture right now. It's everywhere. It's everywhere at alarming rates. And a lot of times, I still will put it at gangster music. I will. Because when you look at the biggest fan base of rap music, it ain't black people. It's white people. And it's not the people that's making it the worst. It's the message. It's the message and the popularity of the message. It's the way that this country is starting to create rules and laws to protect the things that's being taught in these songs, in this music. That's why people like Charleston White are beloved, because he's out there fighting that fight about what that music is doing to Black America. But as we're talking to Thomas Sowell, we see how this is doing this to all America. All America's happening. This ain't only a black thing. So yeah, so shout out to the people who always say, why we always got to talk about black, white? Well, we don't. This right here is an American issue. So at some point, we all just need to grow the hell up and be a little bit more patient, but we got to do more than what we're doing right now so that we can be the person that can do the thing, perform the task, and be disciplined while we do so. So we can have this world that we foresee, that we see as a safe place for our kids and our kids' kids to dwell in and build families and generations of families in.
Yes, a lot.
There's no point being reckless. But I think there are people like Shelby Steele and many others.
Shelby Steele.
You can run through a long list. And there are more such people now than there were, say, in the 1970s. But in terms of political leaders, all the incentives politically are for black leaders to blame all problems in the black community on the larger society. And that enables them to take on the role of being the defender of the black community against enemies, which in turn creates the situation in which many blacks don't feel that anything that they do is going to help themselves unless it's done politically as a group. That there's no point. I mean, why would you, if you believe what they say, why would you want to knock yourself out in school knowing that the man is not going to let you get anywhere? Well, one of the most pathetic things I heard in recent years was a young black man saying that, at one point he thought he would join the Air Force and become a pilot. And then he says he realized that the white man is not going to let a black man become a pilot. And he was saying this decades after the Tennessee Airmen had established their reputation in combat in Europe. But the hopelessness is one of the big products of the race industry. That you have no chance. I remember giving a talk at Marquette, and at the end of the talk, among the questions that was asked, a young black man got up and he said, "Even though I am graduating from Marquette University, what hope is there for me?" And having gone through college when I was in the 50s, I don't remember any blacks saying that in the 1950s. When there was a lot more obstacles to overcome than there were when this guy is graduating from Marquette. But you have to produce that kind of feeling in order to serve the interests of those in the race industry.
Facts.
Final question then. Maybe we can think in terms of that young man at Marquette. Or let's put it this way. Somewhere watching this interview, there's a young Thomas Sowell. There's an African American who's smart and wants to do something with his life. It seems to me we've already got one piece of advice you'd offer to him is stay away from the races industry. Stay away from the race hustlers. What advice would you give a young Thomas Sowell? How do you make something of yourself as an African American in America today?
The way anybody else would. You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for.
Straight like that. You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for. Lawful skills that people are willing to pay for, man.